What's going on, everyone? So the Lakers are active in the trade market, and a trade may potentially come. We'll see. Who knows, right? It's very possible nothing happens. It's very possible something gets done. Right now, it looks like you're going to trade Rui Hachimura and a potential Jeremy Grant trade. D'Angelo Russell is a guy that the Lakers are actively shopping, but they're having a hard time kind of finding a place for him. Not many teams need a point guard. Now, I do think once you get closer to the trade deadline, to where teams go, we don't really care. We just want expiring salary. We want to move off of this guy or move off of these guys, right? And now that expiring contract actually has some significant value, right? Like look at the Russell Westbrook situation, right? It was tough during the offseason, but once you got a trade deadline, all of a sudden you had a ton of value. And all of a sudden Lakers are getting calls for Russell Westbrook because you have teams that want to unload players and salary and stuff. You get teams that, thought they were going to be good but weren't. Or you get teams that want to be bad but are good. And they're like, we need to get off of some of these guys. Cooper Flagg is a possibility for us, right? So I do think, and I've even talked about how I think the Lakers will benefit, particularly for this tank race, right? That you have this tank race where I just think teams, once you get closer to the trade deadline, are really going to value like expiring salaries and things like that. But we'll see. Time will tell. However, there is a possibility that they trade both Rui and D'Lo. That is something that more likely than not, if the Lakers do pull off trades, is going to happen because I do think the Lakers need more than just one trade. Even if you are able to pull off the Jeremy Grant trade, I do think you need to turn D'Lo and whatever else you have left into another piece. That be a center, maybe it's like a Wendell Carter, or maybe you're getting a Walker Kessler and a Colin Sexton or something, right? Point is, like, you need multiple players. You need multiple moves, in my opinion. But for this video, I want to discuss, kind of break down, like, who is more valuable to the Lakers, in D'Angelo Russell or Rui Hachimura. Doesn't necessarily mean that, who's better, right? Keep that in mind for this conversation. Because, of course, I want to hear your thoughts and opinions, so let me know down in the comments. But, again, if you think Rui's better, right, it's about what is best for the team and the fit, particularly if the Lakers pull off a trade, right? So, you can look at both guys as redundant, right? Like, D'Lo and Reeves are redundant. You have a redundancy there. LeBron and Rui are redundant. You have a redundancy there, right? You have two guys that essentially play the same position. Yeah, Rui, you can slot at 3. Yeah, LeBron, you can slot at 3, but you're probably not playing LeBron at 3. And Rui isn't best at the 3. He's best at the 4. So you have redundancies there. D'Lo and Reeves are essentially the same player. And slotting them both, you have like defensive liabilities, right? There's a redundancy there. So they both have this level of redundancy. Now, both guys had excellent shooting seasons. Now, D'Lo had much higher volume. And then Rui is just versatile in the sense of being the 3, but best at the 4. And, I mean, that's where he slots in best. Now, the reason I want to compare the two of them also is because contract-wise, right? Like, you could do a Rui and Vando, like which guy would be better. But one guy's making $17 million, one guy's making like $10 million, right? So, more likely than not, one of the bigger contract guys, a Rui and D'Lo, are going to be shipped out. Again, both could happen, but let's just for argument's sake say one. You have to choose one. Now, I personally think that the Lakers should keep D'Angelo Russell over Rui Hachimura. Here's why. Right? Any type of trade that the Lakers pull off, particularly that they're looking at right now, are all players that aren't a point guard. Now, you could argue you have LeBron James. I've seen people even argue Austin Reeves. But here's the problem, right? LeBron doesn't really want to play on ball, right? He's talked for years about how he doesn't want to play on ball. Talking about it and being about it are very different things, right? LeBron, we went and got Dennis Schroeder. We went and got Russell Westbrook. We got Dennis Schroeder again. We got D'Angelo Russell. Also, LeBron could play off ball. And guess who dominated the ball most of the time, right? Now, again, Lakers kind of needed that, but D'Lo was also at his best when he was allowed to create. It's not a coincidence. D'Lo always had his best games when LeBron was off the court. when LeBron sat out, or when D'Lo, in rare occasions, got to actually run the offense, which I don't understand why Darvin Ham didn't do that more. Like when LeBron goes to the bench, let D'Lo be the point guard. Instead, he let Austin Reeves do that. Here's the problem with Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves does not handle ball pressure well. It's very different to operate in the half court than it is the full length of the basketball court. And you saw Austin Reeves and teams really pressuring Reeves, and he struggled, and he'd have to give the ball up, right? He doesn't have necessarily that size and strength. It's one thing when you're in the lanes and you're kind of being shifty and crafty, and there's all this commotion, you can kind of get through the cracks. Another thing when you're on this open space and you have one or two guys just pestering you, right? It's not the same thing. Also, Austin Reeves isn't a playmaker. He's just not. He can make plays, he can do the basics, he can run the pick and roll, he can find the open man, he can even hit the occasional cutter. But you'll see D'Lo, like if you really watch, go watch some of those games. D'Lo, you see, is seeing things before they happen. He is creating things before it happens. He is reading the defense and reacting based on that situation. The best play in all of basketball last year was the D'Lo and Anthony Davis pick and roll, right? Like it wasn't the Austin Reeves in it was D'Angelo Russell, right? And the problem is if you trade D'Angelo Russell, yes, you may be solving one need, but you're creating another one, right? And in particular, if you trade Gabe Vincent. Now, if you do something where you keep Gabe Vincent, then, particularly with the offense in which JJ Redick wants to run, you won't necessarily need that true playmaker, right? You won't necessarily need that guy that can, make plays, because it's not going to be a point guard driven offense. It's going to be a motion, free flowing action offense, right? You guys are constantly moving, crossing left to right. You got guys cutting. You guys have, multiple screen setters, right? Like you have guys very rarely standing around is the idea, right? So you just need that initiator that can bring the ball up, boom, initiate, and then now things are going. Could Austin Reeves be that? It's very possible, right? But one, what about the games in which LeBron doesn't play? Because if you ever do get to that point, say there's 15 seconds left in the game and it's a tie game and Lakers have the ball, right? Your best action at that point is probably give the ball to LeBron James and just let him make a play. Let him go either win the game or, you trust your best player to get this win, right? But even throughout the game, there may be moments in which you need the playmaker. You do have LeBron that can slot in and do that. But LeBron's probably missing 15 games. And if that happens, maybe even more. But let's say 15, right? Because I think LeBron plays at least the 65, given like that's what he needs for the accolades. But, so if he plays at least the 65 games, then he's missing, 17 games? What do you do in those moments, right? That's where D'Lo, I think, would be very valuable because he can just run the offense. And if you get into a pinch where it's like, we need somebody to just go make a play, boom, D'Lo is more than capable of doing that. Plus his off-ball shooting, his movement shooting, which is good. You see, he can shoot off the dribble. He can shoot on the, while he's fading and falling and doing all those things. Like, that's valuable in a system in which you're constantly moving. Where Rui, he's more of a spot up, catch and shoot three guy, right? So you can't put him in as many actions. Also, almost any trade that you do, you're filling a position in which Rui plays, right? So again, like if you go and trade for Jeremy Grant, even if they were willing to take D'Lo, where do you slot Rui Hachimura now, right? Like, because now you're starting five. Like, let's say you trade D'Lo, right? Your starting five is probably, something along the lines of like Austin Reeves, maybe it's Max Christie, Jeremy Grant, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis. Could you do something where you go like LeBron, Reeves, Grant, Rui, and AD? Sure. But, like defensively, it's probably terrible, right? Now you could go like with Jared Vanderbilt, right? Like maybe you swap out Rui for Jared Vanderbilt, but again, then where does Rui slot, right? So now it's like if you were to trade D'Lo, you're losing that shooter and you're losing that playmaker, right? However you feel about D'Lo, right? And you can't say, well, D'Lo's just terrible in the playoffs. Rui was just awful in the playoffs. They both were. I mean, D'Lo was better than Rui was, right? But again, like, I just think all the positions in which the Lakers are, all the trades in which the Lakers are trying to obtain are all in positions that Rui would play, right? Even if you get a Jeremy Grant or even a Cam Johnson, right? Like, you can slot either of those guys at the 3 or the 4. So if LeBron misses a game, you can just move Cam Johnson to the 4 or move Grant to the 4. Where Vando, you could slot him at the 3. Where, if you keep things, and let's say you trade D'Lo and you choose Cam Johnson, right? Okay, well, now you have, like I said, those guys. Okay, so what? You're playing Rui as the primary backup for LeBron. How many minutes is he playing? Because LeBron's playing 35, right? Like, and then, if the idea is to play AD more at the 4. Okay, well, if you play more AD at the 4, where does Rui fit in? And then at the 3, right? Okay, you could swap Cam Johnson for Rui, right? Like, Cam goes to the bench, put in Rui, but so what? Are you just never going to play Jared Vanderbilt? Right? Like, are you going to split their minutes? Like, where do you find the proper minutes for Rui Hachimura? Because it's not like Rui can play the 2, right? It's not like he's a guy that, you could just, just slot him over. He's, a lengthy, where, like, a guy like Jared Vanderbilt, you could go positionless, right, and slot at the 2. He's not, again, it's just for paper's sake. But you could do something like, like an Austin Reeves, Jared Vanderbilt, Rui Hachimura, LeBron James, or Cam Johnson, Rui Hachimura, and Anthony Davis, right? And LeBron's getting some rest or something, right? Because Jared Vanderbilt has the foot speed and, defending point guards and 2s anyway, right? So most of the time. So you can slot him out there and have him be your point of attack perimeter guy, and then have Rui, slot at the 4 and Johnson at the 3. Or maybe you are trading Jared Vanderbilt. Maybe moving off Jared Vanderbilt. But his defense is just so important and significant, especially in close games where you're late, you need to get a stop, right? It's just, I just think if you trade D'Lo, you're potentially running the risk of having another hole that needs to be filled. Where if you trade Rui, you're filling Rui's role, which is why I think D'Lo is just the more important player. I think D'Lo is the guy you would have to keep. Now, again, they probably trade both of them, which, you're probably still going to have that problem you're going to have to solve, but they would also be getting likely another guy that fills. So now, yes, you have like the issue at the point guard role, but you filled in the small forward and like the center position, right? So it's like, you solve 2 problems to create one, rather than you solved, you solved one problem that, wasn't this huge problem to make a potential huge problem. Where I just think if you have, say a Jeremy Grant and a Wendell Carter Jr., right? Well, now, like, the point guard position, again, probably just need the initiator most of the time. When LeBron is out, there are those concerns still. Now you're still having those concerns, but, it's something that, you at that point you have so much talent that you kind of just figure that out, right? You kind of just take it within the margins type thing. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass a question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you agree? Do you think, D'Lo is just the more important position of need? Do you think, no, it's still Rui, right? You could slot Rui at the 4, have him be the backup 4. Again, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are. But keep in mind, it's not about who you think is better. Because I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, well, Rui's the better player. Remember, basketball is not in a vacuum. Right? A lot of people think Rui is better than Jeremy Grant. Lakers aren't trading Rui because they think Jeremy Grant is just such a far superior player. They're trading for Jeremy Grant and willing to give up Rui because of the fit and because of the importance that he's just better on both sides of the basketball, right? If you want to argue Rui's better offensively, fine, but he's not better defensively than Jeremy Grant. He's not as versatile as Jeremy Grant. That's why, and same thing with like a Cam Johnson, guys like that, right? So these are all things you got to keep in mind. It's not so much about who you think is better. It's who's the more important piece and who's the better fit. Right now, D'Lo is the better fit. In a perfect world, you bring you convince Reeves to come off the bench and be the sixth man, and you slot like a Max Christie or something. Like, that would be ideal, right? But probably not going to happen, right? Reeves is going to want to start. JJ's probably going to start Reeves. And then D'Lo, it's just, there is that redundancy. So I do understand the argument either way. I just think, personally, you keep D'Lo. But again, how you feel, whatever your thoughts are, love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.